Sorry, everybody. I had to stop that stream, and we'll see if this will play better. I'm going to rewind just a little bit.
Perhaps as well for you.
Octavia Memories, thank you for joining us.
We go full out. Hurry! Get up! Move, then! Move!
Can you guys
Within a few minutes,
now?
we had broached a rise, and sliding and slithering came
Or at
down
least
into the
hear it
hollows
now?
of Polly's Tavern. In spite of the summer weather, a steam of damp arose from our clothes and those of other travelers. And the whole common room seemed to be awash with discussion of the storm breeder, whom almost all of them seemed to have met on the road.
The name is Dolan, sir, of Boston, in the import-export trade.
Jonathan Dunwell, recently seated as judge in our circuit courts, bound from New York to your fair city.
Welcome,
No,
my pleasure and privilege
no
to be so
signing.
distinguished a
I
gentleman.
just had some trouble.
I'm afraid your city is fast surpassing ours in credit and notoriety.
Not entirely, sir.
Not coming out of
I'm
the mountain
afraid
water.
a citizen of your city is the focus
That's
of
true.
all conversation
We're listening
tonight.
to some old-time radio
The
shows.
storm breeder. Did you chance on him?
And then I'm going to tell some ghost
No,
stories
I
in a
did
bit
happen.
if
Not today.
this is working.
But too many times,
Too many times?
I could wish to
So
see
far,
neither
it's
that
looking
man
better.
nor his horse again.
And thank you for joining us, Octavia Memories. Appreciate it very much.
I saw them plain, father and daughter, passing us on the road.
Did you speak?
No?
I have seen him wet and weary many times before tonight. And no one who has ever once seen him can ever be deceived again as to his identity.
You know him by name?
Yes, sir. Peter Rugg.
Peter Rugg.
I'll be sharing some personal
But who is
experience
this
of ghost
mysterious
stories
man?
and
That is
some
more
that
than
other people
anyone
have given
can
to
tell
me.
Exactly. Save that he is a famous traveler.
And if you want to share
Heaven
some
know his team by all
in the
in
chat
all,
room, feel
for
free.
He never stops to eat,
I'll be
drink,
glad
nor
to
sleep.
But why
glad
does
to
the
read
man
them and
never stop
to
anywhere?
read them.
Long
Yes.
enough to speak to anyone at least.
By those who know the most about him. Say the
Look at her
least.
face. You know, she looks like she's going to murder me, doesn't she?
Heaven sets a mark on a man for judgment or for trial. I'm thinking of the one time Rugg spoke to me. I was in Connecticut at the time, on a winding road. My horse was weary as myself. It was toward dusk. And all of a sudden, from behind me, traveling at that reckless clip for those roads, a fiery black horse pulling an open chaise caught up to me from behind. Could you tell me how far it is to Boston? 100 miles. 100? How can you say so? I was told last night it was
That
50,
picture freaks me
and
out
I've traveled
all the
night.
time.
Problem is, sir, you are traveling from Boston.
I've
You
had
must
a lot of
turn
them
back.
that are
How can
freaky
you tell
today.
me so? It is all turned back.
Like this one.
Boston shifts with the wind. One man tells me it is to the east, the other west. Even the guideposts all point the wrong way.
I hope I didn't
think
scare you too
perhaps
much,
you're
Octavia.
tired, and your little girl,
Or
too.
Octavian Memories,
Why
rather.
not stop and rest? You're wet and weary. Yes, foul weather since I left home. Stop then up ahead of the inn and refresh. No, I cannot stop. Do you see what follows me? I must ever stay ahead of it. So I must reach home tonight. I pray you are mistaken in the distance to Boston. I wish I were. May I make so bold as to inquire if you are Peter Rugg? I think we've met before. My name is Rugg. I meet so many. I have lost my way. I am wet and weary. I would take it kindly if you would direct me to Boston. Where do you live in Boston? On what street? Why, Middle Street. Everyone knows the house, with the great shade maple, across from the cemetery. When did you leave Boston? I cannot tell precisely. It seems a considerable time. What, sir? How did you and your child become so wet? It has not rained in these parts today. The shower caught me
You're
back
right,
on the road a
Octavius.
piece.
It is
always catches me
kind of weird for a creature
unless
to
I
act all
keep
scary
moving.
when showing their real form,
Moving.
and then turn back to human
Would
like
you
nothing
advise
happened.
me to take the old road or the turnpike? Why?
Pretty low
The
self-esteem.
old
I like that
road is
idea.
over 120 miles.
Or
The
extra
turnpike
devious,
was 97. You
like
impose
Monk
on me.
says. Or
It is wrong to trifle with a traveler.
I don't
You know
like
it
when
is only
demons
some
follow
40
B
miles from
movie
Newburyport to
horror
Boston, but
tropes.
this is not Newburyport.
Real
This
demons
is
aren't like
Hartford.
that. That is
Do
true.
not
Although they
deceive
are
me, sir.
still
Is not this river I've been following the
behave like
Merrimack?
bullies.
Oh, no, sir. You are
At least
just
the ones
outside
I've
Hartford.
experienced.
And this river
They've all
is the
acted like
Connecticut.
bullies.
Have the rivers,
And a bully, once you stand up to them, they back down.
as the
Sometimes.
cities, their places, am I forever? But again, the clouds are gathering and the storm is at my heels.
That's true. I don't think I've ever met one that jumps out and says boo either. They'd more than likely throw something at you.
He would talk no longer. His impatient horse leaped off, his flanks rising like wings. And that's the last time I saw the ill-fated
Mr. Rugg.
Mr. Rugg.
Amazing. But you say he gave his address as Middle Street.
That is correct, Mr. I should say Judge Dunwell.
The house with the great maple shade tree across from the cemetery.
So he said.
Do you know Boston well enough to locate him?
Oh, no, sir. And my business seldom
Any
carries
of you
me
been to
that
Boston
way.
before?
But mine does. I think for
Octavia wrote, I
curiosity's
never
sake, I
met a
must go to
demon who
Peter
threw a
Rugg's
bottle at
home.
me, and with
I tried to
in
find
that
out why
bottle
it is
was,
so difficult to return to.
was a piece
20
of paper
years,
with the
you
word
said, you've been
poo.
seeing him on the road.
Oh, all of that. And the last was the only
Ah,
time.
how did you like your trip to
I should
Boston?
like to meet the man
You get to
face
see
face.
some of the old buildings around
If for
there?
no other reason than to find a better fate for that little girl long since turned woman. When I get to Boston, I shall make it my first order of business.
Yes, there are lots of old
Which is
buildings.
exactly what I
Kind of
did.
reminds me a little bit
It was
of
not easy, for
Montreal,
the
to
maps
be
were
honest.
inaccurate.
At least
And there
some
was
parts
more
of
than
it.
one Middle Street. But finally I found it. The great tree smothering the house so that it lay in a shadowy gloom. The paint was peeling. The windows cracked and cobweb-ridden.
Ah, and
But the path to the door
Octavia
was cleared.
also
and I
was there when you were
sure
little.
someone
Cool.
or something
Boston is a nice
still
place
lived
to
there.
visit.
It
Just
was
don't
with a
walk along the
strange
streets by
trepidation I
yourself,
walked through the weeds and lifted the heavy knocker.
just to be safe.
At last, with a deep breath, I let it fall. Then, in utter silence,
People are quite likely to jump you in Boston as they are to say hello to you.
whatever waited
At
behind
least
that
when you're
door.
going down certain roads.
The house abandoned by its master for countless years. Is it possible that any evidence of him has remained? Or his family? Does some
Oh, awesome.
heartbroken woman still wait
What's
for that
the,
lost child?
what are you writing about,
Or
if you don't
even
mind me
for the
asking? What kind of
storm breeder
paranormal
himself?
story?
Who and what is Peter Rugg?
And if you ever wish to share it
Phantom?
or collaborate, let me
Or
know.
reality?
I love reading
legend?
paranormal stories,
We shall
and
have to await those
I would
answers
not
with
mind,
Judge Dunwell until I return
what do you call
shortly.
it? Giving
with Act
you
Two.
good criticism on. I am a writer, mostly of short
Judge
mystery stories.
Dunwell was never
but I'm working
fated
on a
to
horror
have an
story called The
answer
Death
to his
That
knock on the
Follows.
door. For in the very moment that something old
And it's
stirs
the death
and
that follows
rustles
you
within the
around
house,
wherever you go,
outside it, the
trying to
small
catch you.
noises are smothered by the arrival
and
of the
always ahead
familiar
of you at
black
times,
jets
saying,
and
"Oh,
the
I will
snorting,
meet up with
prancing
you. I will follow you.
that draws
Don't
in.
worry, I'll be right there."
Whoa, Lightfoot! Whoa! Don't you recognize home at last?
Whoops, sorry.
At the sound of the arrival, instinctively I had withdrawn deeper in the shadows, finding perfect concealment behind a clump of overgrown rhododendra. Twilight was just
That is
upon us.
awesome.
As a
That's awesome that you're a writer.
younger man than I remembered, Peter
I love
Rugg
writing.
strode up the path,
And I'm sorry my
tried for the door to open.
bot deleted your
The little
messages.
girl sat timid and immobile on the seat of the carriage, as if knowing
Let's
the
show those
hopelessness
again.
of it all. Somewhere, low thunder grumbled.
Mistress Rugg, your husband is sorry to have been delayed, but circumstances beyond...
Sorry, Nightbot.
I
Turn off.
beg your pardon, madam, but I'm looking for Mistress Catherine Rugg.
Who? Who did you say?
My wife, madam. The Mistress Rugg.
Oh, Lord bless you, sir. She ain't here. Ain't been here or in this world for 50 years.
What do you mean?
I mean, she's dead and gone like all birds. Dead and gone and buried and lost.
Oh,
But
I'm sorry,
that
Octavia.
can't be.
Looks like the damn Nightbot
I'm
timed it out
tired
for
of
a few
war,
minutes.
but This, I know my own house. I live here.
Oh, no, you don't.
But yeah,
Not now,
that would be
you don't,
awesome.
whoever
If you want to send
are.
it to me in a whisper.
I can show you deed and title which says that it's
If you don't want
mine.
anybody else knowing about it.
It's true. It seems as though it might be on the wrong side of the street. I don't know. It's hard to...
Sure, I would love
forgive
to.
me, madam. I'm confused.
That would be awesome.
Everything
I'd love to read it.
seems misplaced. The streets change. The people change. The town change. And what is strangest of all, Catherine
And
Rugg
I will give you my honest
has
opinion.
deserted her husband
And some
child.
suggestions to improve it if you want. Maybe some ideas
Pray
too.
tell me, has John Foy come home from sea?
Who?
John Foy, my kinsman. He could give me some account of Mrs. Rugg.
I never heard of
Yeah,
John
whispering would probably be
Foy.
best.
Where does he live?
Just above here on Orange Tree Lane.
Oh, bless you for a stranger. No such place in this neighborhood.
But that can't be possible. The street's
Good
gone.
Nightbot. I gotta figure out how
Orange Lane is
to
not the head of Hanover Street near
configure that thing.
Field.
There is
Somebody
no
else
such
did it
thing
for me, and I've
now.
not been able to configure it since.
You cannot be serious. Woman, you mock me. The next thing you will tell me is that there is no King George. However, be that as it may, you must see, madam, that both my daughter and myself are wet and weary. I must find a resting place. Can you direct me to Boston?
But this is Boston. The only city of Boston I know.
But not the one.
I can
I
try to
know.
read it in my head.
Yes, like
Try to.
coming.
So you're gonna read it
I'm wrong, of course.
to us
I don't know how
or
I
in your
could
head?
have mistaken
I was
you.
gonna read it in my head unless you want me to share it with everybody.
Boston must lie at a
Um,
distance. My
If
good
you want me
woman
to share it with
says
everybody, then
George
I'll
will
read it
come.
out loud.
Yes. It's the same old story. No,
I just don't want anybody to steal your idea, you know?
I must away.
No! Mr. Rugg, wait! Wait!
Who are you, sir?
Oh, 1,000 pardons, Mistress Croft. May I present myself, Judge Jonathan Dunwell of the Circuit Courts, but recently come to Boston.
A judge? Have you some business with that man?
Not legal business, but I had hoped to meet him here and question him. I am obsessed with a desire to know exactly who and what he is.
I'm ashamed for
Nobody's
allowing
gonna
you
be-
to stand
okay.
so long in the rain. Come in and warm yourself by my fire.
Yeah, then I will be glad to read it. Go ahead and send it over in a whisper, and I will read it out loud.
May I offer you some more sherry, Your Worship?
No. You are more than kind to have given me what I have against
And you can
the
hear me
guilt.
stumble, rumble, and bumble.
Heaven help that poor man in an open carriage.
And that child beside him.
And the child.
That a man named Rugg once owned this house is all I know. The factor who arranged for my father to take it over is supposed to have made sure all papers are legal.
How I wish I could have stopped him, learned more about him, tried to solve the mystery of him.
The mystery of him. Well, I cannot help there, but I should think the factor who sold us this house should know more of him than anyone, if he is still alive.
Could you give me his name and address?
Okay,
I
I
shall
see
not
it.
rest till I've followed
I
this
will
strange
pause it
affair
right now.
to its depths and its beginnings.
This is the perfect time to pause it. And we will read it. See if I can. Should I put on like a real ghostly voice and try to be scary? Or just read in my normal voice. Or I could read like this and be like, "Hi." Uh, it's paranormal, not horror. Okay, so I won't read in the spooky, deadly voice. Okay. I'm in a cab, pulling into a driveway downtown. Oh, the Azure Project, the house that lives. I'm in a cab pulling into a driveway downtown. The sun hasn't crossed the horizon line yet. Still so early that it might as well be night. The driver stops the car and tilts his head back to me. This place, he asks, raising his voice over the heavy rain and taking one last puff of his cigar before putting it out on his stained ashtray. I straighten my mask and look through its slits, rather. The house in front of us is tall, with some broken windows that have candlelight coming through them, like eyes waiting to blink the second I look away. The driver lets out a sigh. If you're gonna go, then go. I don't have all day for you to make up googly eyes at this place. I take out my credit card and let him swipe it. He never takes his hands off the wheel, and his foot is resting next to the gas pedal, tapping in an uneven spatter. I open the door and nod, keeping my hand on it for a few seconds. He hands my card back, then moves his foot onto the gas, waiting to push down. The thunder bellows above us, and he's shaking but trying his best to stay calm. Thank you, I say, pulling my suitcase along and closing the door. He doesn't respond before pulling away as fast as he can. I don't blame him. Houses like this have a reputation, and when you get to that point, people don't stick around, see if it is true or not, except for me. I walked past the street sign on the edge of the driveway. Hollow Ave. It's the right address, unfortunately. I pull my hood over my head. My coat quickly becomes drenched. The water drips across the slits of the mask like a puppet show with 1,000 actors, taking up my vision, but I look past it. If this were any other day, I'd be running a shelter, but not today. My eyes are drawn to the house. An old building with stained and cracked bricks, a dark blue like the house I grew up in, but missing that home feeling. Trees line the sidewalks, wilted but still alive, their branches twisted out and reaching for me. I shy away from them, staying centered on the sidewalk as I approach the deck. It's a worn down hunk of wood with barely functional steps and might crumble as soon as I step on them. I move up them slowly, being sure not to apply too much pressure. They're silent as my feet press into them, like they're just thick mud. A few steps later, and I'm at the top of them, with my hand on a metal railing, slippery and loose. I almost lose my balance when I let my weight fall into it, and it swings outward, barely holding its nails in the ground. The high-pitched squeal it makes when the nails scratched against the iron makes my heart race, not to mention almost falling a few feet into a puddle that's forming at the skirts, but I pull myself back to my feet. This is cool. I will continue. I pause when I get to the front door. I don't want to be that guy that wakes up at 2 in the morning during the thunderstorm. I take a few steps over the window and peer through, just as creepy. I know, but I can see the light in the kitchen. She's awake. I step back to the door and start to prepare a speech about why I'm here. I came up with 4 or 5 different ways of putting this, but can't decide which one to go with. So I just take the first idea that comes to mind. I clear my throat as I raise my hand in a fist, chest level, and I hold it there for what feels like a full minute, sorry. The door opens before I can knock, and I'm face to face with Elizabeth. She has a pleasant smile despite the cold air that's surrounding her. The anything but pleasant atmosphere all around the both of us. She's got rosy red hair curled, not straight, that comes down to her shoulders, and the kind of deep blue eyes you'd see on one of those supposedly haunted porcelain dolls they sell at the flea markets. My gaze makes its way up her flowing sky blue dress, and we make eye contact. My speech is gone, and seeing her face to face, I can't bring myself to go on like I'm some hero who's gonna swoop in on a white horse and take her to safety. She smiles. Please, do come in. She says. I adjust my mask one more time and follow her into the house. Sorry, I hope you don't mind me adding a little bit there as at the please do come in instead of just the please come in. But I like it. It's a very good start. Any ideas of what else you could add to give the girl with the red hair a little bit more character? Maybe just a suggestion. Maybe some freckles, just a few on each cheek. Might offer a little bit more to her. What do you think, Moat? Any suggestions? That I like the beginning of that though. That is really awesome, Tavia. Nah, she doesn't have any freckles. Okay, sorry. She just kind of reminded me of a friend of mine that lives close by. Kind of had the same kind of look while I was reading through it. It's going to be her personality, not her appearance. Sometimes her the more you add the character's personality, actually becomes more of their appearance. At least in the atmosphere, because at least in my mind, as I was reading it, just from the atmosphere that you were progressing, I was already putting a picture of what she might look like in my head, which is awesome. So keep up with it. I think you did really good. And if you don't mind, please keep me up to date with how it goes, because I'd love to read more of it and keep adding some suggestions if you don't mind me whispering back and forth with you on it. But that is a really good opening. I have to say I really enjoyed it. Start back up we'll read the second act of The Stormbreeder.
You understand the hour is late, Jack.
And by the way,
yes, I do indeed, Mr. Felt. You know
thank you so much for allowing me to read Octavia. I appreciate that very much.
I will be brief.
I should say Octavia Memories, so people can follow you.
In his youth, he was married to a fine young woman who bore him a daughter, as I remember. Jenny. So I believe was the name.
And as Mo said, maybe add some movements to her, like how she walks, does she flow, does she
ran off with the child, leaving the wife
walk silently, those
believe,
steps, is she heavy-footed?
Yes.
Just some thoughts.
She died. Why? Well, damn it, she was deserted. Fortunately, Rugg left no creditors. He owned his horse and chaise, and after she died, it was all soon forgotten. Yeah, soon forgotten. I suppose he died. No. To the best of my belief,
Bear
he is
with
now
me just a
alive
few
and
moments.
living.
I'm going to also
I have
share,
lately seen him and
Octavia,
his horse and
a link
chaise,
for you
and his child.
to go to for helpful tools for writers if you
I
want.
wouldn't presume to argue with a man of your standing that Peter Rugg could still be alive. I will not deny, but Jenny Rugg, if you saw her, let's see now, the Boston Massacre was 1770, was it not? I fortunately avoided it, but history records that date. So on that date,
Just one moment. Octavia, there's a place called writershelpingwriters.net. WRITERS helpingwriters.net. It's really awesome. They've got a lot of tools on like character attributes, building characters, coming up with descriptions, descriptive tools, as well as anything to just get your ideas flowing. I think you would benefit greatly from there, and they have a lot of really active forums too. All right, I just wanted to share that. It's something that's helped me out in the past, so I think it will help you out greatly.
He was 10 years of age, and if living, that would make
I
her...
plan on sharing some of my stories.
Let's see, 60 now, give or take a year. Do you know what you're saying?
I was sharing my Phantom Road story earlier, but next week I'm going to share a couple of short poems that I wrote, and I'm going to share a ghost story right after this story, Old Time Radio Show is finished.
It was obvious that Mr. Felt was in his dotage. So despairing of gaining any further intelligence from him, I returned to my lodgings at the Marlborough Hotel. If Peter Rugg, I thought to myself, has been traveling since the Boston Massacre, there is no reason I can see now that he shouldn't travel to the end of time. And I might have left it there had I not descended to the tap room for a nightcap, and there encountered Mr. Derwin.
I ran up against a man whose grandfather knew our elusive friend, Mr. Rugg, and can now tell you the whole story, such as it is.
Then by all means begin.
It seems that, if my informant is worthy of credit, Peter Rugg, a man in comfortable circumstances, with one daughter and a wife, lived in Boston on Middle Street. He was a man generally esteemed, save for one thing.
I'm also going to share a couple poems that were written too.
So violent that the wig would rise from his head, and while his fits were upon him, he had no respect for heaven or earth.
A sorry spectacle, some of it hard to believe.
Less hard to believe than his punishment for it.
Well, what does that mean, sir?
Well, whilst visiting in Concord one day late in autumn, with his daughter in the chaise, drawn by his favorite horse, a great black beast named Lightfoot, a tremendous storm overtook them, driving them for shelter as dark fell under the roof of a friend of his, Mr. Cutter, who urged him to tarry the night.
Which any man in his right senses under the circumstances would do. And he did not heed his pleas?
Far from it, Judge. Instead, the veins standing out on his neck and at his temples, he screamed to high heaven, "Let the storm increase! Let God and the devil wreck their worst! I will see home tonight, or never see it more!" And with that, he clapped whip to his horse and disappeared into the raging night.
Never to return home?
Never.
Incredible.
Wasn't that supernatural?
Why?
The man is accursed, whether by God or by the devil. I know not which.
Still, 50 years of wandering in search of his home.
Okay, Mo, I appreciate you stopping by. Talk to you soon.
As to that, there are two theories. One I had from my informant. His grandfather said that on the day after he left Concord 50 years ago, his friends and neighbors started inquiries. But it appeared that Peter Rugg had stayed no place in Boston. And his wife had a strange tale.
What tale is that?
Sitting by the window, waiting on that wild night, there was a sudden sound like an earthquake. And indeed the whole house rumbled underneath her as if about to cave in. Peering out through the storm, she saw a strange sight.
What sight was that?
Coming hell for leather down the street was Peter Rugg in his carriage, straining back on the reins in a vain effort to stop his horse, and crying, "No, Lightfoot, no! May you be damned for the devil you are! Hold up, I say! We are home! Hold up, Lightfoot, in the name of all that's holy! Hold up!"
So that fiery horse of his had the bit between his teeth and would not stop?
Yes. But there were those who discount the story, saying merely that Peter Rugg wanted to leave his wife and never come home at all. That there was another woman somewhere.
That scarcely fits the facts as we know them.
Well, then, there is the other theory.
Which is?
Perhaps best told by the woman who had the experience. Now, she's the wife of the toll gatherer on the Charlestown Bridge. Would you care to hear her tale for yourself?
Let's hear her side of the story now, shall we? This should be interesting to hear her side.
Well, sir, it's many years ago by now. My old man has gone to his rest. Lord save him who could spare me out. In those days, we were both young and spry, and many's the evening I used to keep him company here at the toll gate.
Those days were when?
Oh, nigh on to 50 years ago.
Well, I'm sorry to have interrupted. Go on with your story.
But I remembered how annoyed Ethan was by this big black horse and the chaise and the man and the little girl. Used to tell me how they continually were in contempt of the rates crossing the bridge without stopping or paying.
And were they always followed by bad weather?
Why, bless you, sir, that is the truth. My Ian used to say they brought bad luck.
And you say you saw them?
One evening we heard them sundering up, and I said, "This time they ain't going to take it out on you, Ethan. You're too easy going." So when he called them to halt, and they kept on, I had grabbed up a three-legged stool. Heavy it was, but I was young and strong, and I hurled it square into the horse's belly.
And tell the judge what happened then.
It passed right through that horse as if it were a shatter. He never even broke stride as the stool went skipping across the bridge. No, sir. That was a haunt. A ghost rider with bad luck right in the dust of his wheels.
So, Judge Dunwell, what is your judgment?
I don't know. Neither explanation fits the pattern of my mind. And I have a feeling that I am not yet done with Peter Rugg. Nor will be till his fate is truly revealed to me.
Wow, what a ghostly story so far. Especially the haunting of his
And
horse.
the judge's instinct was right. Neither he nor we are yet done with the haunting tale of Peter Rugg, the man or ghost who wanders so hopelessly in search of home and rest. I'll return shortly with Act 3.
Act 3, I'll share a story.
It was to be 5 years before Peter Ruggs and Judge Dunwell's paths crossed again. For some time, the judge had tried to track down the sometimes elusive person or legend, whichever he was. Then, being only human, Peter Rugg had almost passed from his mind until the rest of the judge's story, which you are about to hear now. In the autumn of 1825, I attended the races at Richmond in Virginia. There was great excitement and the races were well attended, for it was a match race between 2 recognized champions, a roan called Dart and a light gray mare called Butterfly. At a signal, the gun sounded, and they were off. I was glued to the race. There seemed no way of choosing which horse might win, when suddenly there was an extra wave of excitement from the already madly cheering crowd. To my open-mouthed astonishment, appearing as if from nowhere in the rear, was a majestic black horse of unusual size, drawing an old weather-beaten chair. Effortlessly, as if its heavy non-racing vehicle, encumbered as it was by 2 occupants, didn't exist, he overtook the racing horses shortly before the winning line. And in concert, both Dart and Butterfly, as the horse passed them, lay back their ears and pulled up short, so that no contest was called. And the winning black horse and his carriage passed the finish line and faded away over the hill. In the clubhouse later, I was fortunate enough to have an introduction to one John Spring, the owner and rider of Butterfly.
Damn it, sir, that was no horse that overtook my mare. No one can outrun
somebody
Butterfly. No horse, that is. Why, I had bet all I have she would show her heels to Dart.
No doubt she would if the...
Good horse, make no mistake. Good horses start a great one. But not outrun my Butterfly. That ox or whatever animal it was that frightened off our horses, why, that makes no contest, sir. No contest.
And yet it looked like a horse.
In no fashion, sir. Nor was it. In no fashion. And that I can prove.
How is that, Mr. Spring?
By my own observation and countless others, sir.
That horse
Would you
was
like
real,
to
sir.
see?
I would indeed.
Well, then, follow me.
That horse was definitely real.
You remember? Just about here, both of them pulled up and let that interloper go by and disappear.
Yes, the view is unfamiliar from this point, but I do remember it was shortly before the finish line.
Exactly, sir. Both horses have to pull them up, walk deliberately to this spot of soft ground. Butterfly dropped her head and then lifted it, whickering in fright. Dart followed by doing the same and snorting in a sort of anger. So all of us looked to what they had examined. See you then there for yourself, Judge.
I was looking at the hoof marks of the black horse which had carried on to the finish line and beyond. Horse? From the evidence of my eyes from the stands, yes. From the same evidence as I looked at the soft ground, Mr. Spring's strange claim had real validity. These were not the marks of a horse's hooves, but the evidence of another breed of animal or being. The hooves were cloven.
Cloven? That's never a good sign, now is it?
Judge Dunwell.
Mr. Derwent, your business takes you far afield.
By the way, Octavia Memories. What sort of stuff do you like to write? Paranormal?
Oh, yes.
Do you like
I was
mysteries
stunned,
too?
weren't you?
Thrillers?
I thought Peter Rugg had vanished.
I like to write mystery
not
stories.
either.
Detectives.
In the years since we met,
And
I have come across
I'm working
him
on a
time
ghost
and
story.
again
And
gotten soaked to the
but it's
skin
not real good
because of
yet,
him.
so I have to
In
rewrite
New Hampshire,
it.
Connecticut, Massachusetts.
But
the
I'll
last
show you
time, but
some
shortly,
of my short
in
stories
Delaware.
and some
Have
of my
you
poetry
spoken?
in a few.
The last time only.
Tell me, if you will, what took place.
Well, sir, on his approach, he checked his horse with some difficulty. A more beautiful horse I'd never seen. Sir, your face seems familiar. Perhaps I may engage your help. If you are, as maybe, traveling to Boston, I should be glad to accompany you, for I have lost my way. My little girl here is weary, and I must reach home tonight. That would be impossible, sir. For you are in Concord, in the county of Sussex, which is in the state of Delaware. But Concord? That is only 20 miles from Boston, and my horse Lightfoot could carry me to the Charlestown ferry in less than 2 hours. You mistake, sir. You are a stranger here. I am well acquainted with Concord, and this town is nothing like it. Because this is Concord in the state of Delaware.
He's in the wrong state.
What do you mean by state? Why, one of the United States, man. States? Do you mock me? Because my heritage is Dutch? I know well I am not in Holland. As a gentleman, I beg you not to mislead me. Tell me, quickly, for pity's sake, before my horse swallows its bit, he is so starved, set me on the right road for Boston. If I could, and I did, it would be 500 miles from here. 500 miles, you say? Nay, I will listen no more. This beats the Connecticut River. Get up, Lightfoot, get up! I can explain his last remark. I met him, as you may remember, outside Hartford, when he persisted in mistaking the Connecticut River for the Charles.
So our wandering homeseeker is still abroad. Man or spirit, I shall not rest until he can. But how to help him?
That is a good question.
The courts were closed until the winter session. It seemed to me that the judgment on Peter Rugg was too great, too inhumane, too unreasonable.
Any ideas, Octavia Memories, how this should end?
I made it my business wholly for once to try to catch him again. But I always seemed fated to be just too late. At the toll gate on the turnpike between Alexandria and Middleburg, he had passed and paid no toll. But the toll gatherer was grateful, for he brought rain behind him to relieve a drought. Back in Virginia at the toll bridge, an irate gatekeeper told me that, annoyed by the number of times Rugg had passed that way refusing to pay, he had stood in the way of the vehicle, and it had passed right through him or over him without so much as touching him. On the ferry boat across the Hudson, a Mr. Hardy who collected fares showed me a fare that a man had given him, insisting it was 30 shillings. It might have been once. It was a half-crown, coined by the British Parliament, dated 1649. Then I knew I had caught up with Peter Rugg again at last. I found him in his rig at the bow of the boat. Greetings, Mr. Rugg.
Huh? Oh, yes. You seem familiar, sir.
Judge Dunwell. We have met on the road before.
That could be possible, sir. May I say that since you are a stranger here, my house is your home. Dame Rugg will be happy to see her husband's friend. Step into my chair, sir, if you will. Move over, Jenny. For the great man. We shall be in Middle Street very shortly.
For many reasons, I will take advantage of your kind invitation. I sneaked a glance at my companions. Both were dressed in incredibly old-fashioned garments of fine cloth, but showing great wear. Rugg himself, at least in the face, was little more than skin drawn over the skull and cheekbones. Jenny was so bundled up she suggested only to my sad and horrified eye what her wizened, dried-out face proclaimed. A small Egyptian mummy. Only Lightfoot looked bigger, sleeker, and more magnificent than ever.
This is not Boston, sir.
Then mayhap it is New York.
How can it be New York, sir? when that place is 200 and more miles from Boston. But I thought I was home.
Mr. Rudd, look to the west. Only the size of a blackberry now, but that looks like an angry storm on our trail.
Ah, it is in vain to escape. I know that cloud. It brings new wrath to spend on my head.
It's coming.
Go now, kind stranger, whoever you are. Leave me to my fate.
No, not this time, Peter Rudd. Give me the reins. This time perhaps we can outrun the storm. I took them from his slack hand, sliding over him and pushing him back to huddle with his daughter. And it needed only one flick to send that strange horse on his way like the wind. As we careened around the first corner, I noticed that his front hooves had been split on some hard road somewhere, but were healing. So Mr. Spring had been at least half right about the cloven hooves. I remembered little of that nightmare ride for Boston, how many days passed, where we stayed or ate or slept. I only know that no matter how fast we traveled, that mushrooming black cloud stayed on our heels every step of the way. And then at last, we were in Boston, on Middle Street. A crowd was gathered. The great elm still stood, although barren now of leaves, fire-blackened. And all that remained of the house was a heap of rubble. All else burnt to the ground, as I knew it to be, for the fire had taken place 2 years before.
You men of the North End, this is holy ground. The city needs this land, and let not the name of Peter Rugg dampen your ardor. No! I hold renting title to this place.
No, hush, Mr. Rugg. Listen for a moment longer.
Let no man try to tell you that Peter Rugg is long since dead and gone to his reward. Or punishment. Let not legislatures seek the right and title to this land which is free and clear. But how can this be? Who has burned my house to the ground? And who are all these strange people? I thought I knew every man in Boston, but I do not recollect at this moment that I ever saw one of these. Who are these strangers?
Listen to me, Peter Rugg. The only stranger here is you. You have suffered many years under an illusion. Look behind. The cloud, the storm. Your nemesis is gathering.
Then I must flee, away from home again.
No, if you do, you have no home.
If I stay, there is none left.
Don't you see that for over 50 years, the tempest which you so profanely defied at Monotamy has driven you before it like a straw in the wind? And now it is too late. Your wife, your house, and all your neighbors have disappeared. You have no home left here. You've been cut off from one age, and you can never be fitted to the present. You can never have another home again in this world, you or your daughter, unless...
Yes. Quickly, for the storm is almost upon us. Unless what?
Unless you stop fleeing it. Let it catch up with you and perhaps pass you by. Then mayhap at long last you can find rest.
Oh, rest. Sweet, blessed rest. Oh, my Father, forgive me. And take me and Jenny home.
Black clouds and teeming rain engulfed us all. My last view of Peter Rugg was standing with his arm about his daughter, his face lifted to the rain. And wonder of wonders, at last the child's head, too, was lifted. In the intensity of it, they were lost, and suddenly the storm passed. For a moment, in its last fringe, I saw the two of them, eyes on heaven. And then, as if they had never been, chaise, horse, harness, father and daughter were gone. Where? I do not know. I can only hope home at last.
Judge Dunwell lived out a long and fruitful life, dying quietly in his bed one night. We do not know what his last thoughts were, but certainly one of them must have been that
40 years of his life, he never again met or heard of Peter Rugg.
Oh, I like that ending. That was good. That was a good ending. Okay. So now it is time for me to share. Shall we share? Okay, we'll share this story. This is another one written that I really should rewrite and make it sound a lot better and maybe publish it. Please let me know what you think. First, let me know if you like it. And if you think I should rewrite it, maybe add a little bit more detail and actually make it a story to sell. This takes place in an apartment I lived in before I moved to Naugatuck. 8 or 9 years ago. This may take a little while, so get comfortable, please. I found this apartment totally by accident, but I needed to find one and one quickly. When I walked in, I loved it instantly. The place was built in 1910 on the site of an old brick company. I found this out from a know-it-all neighbor, one of those neighbors that knows everything and nothing all at the same time. I moved in and really liked the place. The only thing I couldn't figure out was why I was having a hard time sleeping in the bedroom. I finally chalked it up to poor sleeping habits or restlessness at the time, or restlessness rather. But I also had a bad feeling about the energy of the room, and something was telling me to maybe move the bed and equipment to another bedroom. But anyway, at the time, I had a cat named Jake. He rather started doing things that spooked me a little. One time, I was in the bedroom reading, and he was at the end of the bed doing his personal grooming when, like the one leg up in the air type thing, and he stopped, leg up, and looked right at the wall and started hissing. There was nothing hanging on the wall where he was looking. I looked to see if there was like a spider or something, but there's nothing there. He watched slowly, his head following this thing toward the door in a straight line. I was getting a bit worried by now. Then, when it got to the corner by the door, he started watching it go up, and his head started going up again, hissing. And when it got to the ceiling, he stopped and went back to cleaning himself again, as if nothing had happened. Another time, my friend was over, and we were in my room. Oh my. And the cat was, as usual, at the end of the bed. We were just talking. The light was on, and all of a sudden, we heard a sound that I can only describe as a small child's voice saying, "Ooh!" as if it saw something interesting or as if it was in pain. Needless to say, we all three, cat included, jumped. We also looked at the direction of where the sound came from, which was about 4 feet up the middle of the doorway. We looked at each other because it was quite loud, as if someone were actually standing there. After that, other friends would drop by, and I never mentioned it to them, but once in a while they would hear it. They usually would leave shortly after, on some pretense or other. One friend left immediately, like, "I gotta go, see ya," and just ran out the door. Not even an explanation. It wasn't a scary thing to me. It was more playful than anything. Sometimes, when I was alone, I would hear it and mimic the sound with a whistle, because my voice doesn't go that high. I should explain about the place where the sound came from. There's like a small place where 4 doors came together, a sort of crossroads to the house, if you will. There was enough space there for me to put a small table um, for the phone. There was a large mirror on the wall that connected with the apartment next door, and a light switch. The light switch was scary to me. Sometimes I would switch it on and it would take 2 or 3 seconds to come on. Probably bad and unsafe wiring, in these old houses. Still, it was quite spooky at night. When my cat Jake died, it wasn't long until I got my wonderful cat Max. He was so funny and a perfect friend. I had to leave him behind when I moved to my current house. Anyway, he used to look at the wall the same way the kid that Jake did, in the same exact place. He seemed to see things I couldn't, and he would watch them for long periods of time, following their movement, but never hissing. I thought it was interesting that he picked up on the same stuff. Still, not being able to sleep well in that room, 3 years later, I slept on the couch a lot. I moved my room into a small room that was just big enough for my bed and a bookshelf. I really liked that room, but I could hear too much noise from our neighbors and eventually moved to where I am now. I should add that before I had moved there, I had had enough and moved my I had had enough with the neighbors and moved the bed into the living room. The sound was still heard from time to time, also heard by Max. A friend of mine moved in next door with his girlfriend, and one day while she and I were talking, she mentioned that they were having a hard time sleeping at night, and they didn't know why. Our bedrooms were next to each other. They tried moving the furniture around, as did I, and nothing helped. They were also having more arguments than usual. They seemed to not get along when they were inside the house, but got along extremely fine when they were outside and away from the house. I suggested that they should move because the energy in that apartment just was not proper for them. Then a really odd thing started to happen. Ooh. A small white light about the size of a marble would pass from one side of the crossroads, the hallway I was telling you about, to the other. About the same height as the sound. It scared me a little at first, but what could I do? I didn't have enough money to move out at that time. It really scared me when the neighbors told me that they saw the same thing. They were the ones that brought it up, by the way. They said sometimes it was going toward my apartment, and sometimes the other way, as if coming from my apartment. This was the wall with the big mirror on it, by the way. Another friend thought we should get to the bottom of this and came over with a Ouija board. Now, I'm not easily scared, but I just didn't feel like egging someone or something on in my house. Actually, after all, I had to live there, and I was not going to, was not in the mood for opening a portal that perhaps I would not be able to close and have some other entity stuck here. Anyway, so the woman, anyway, so we invited the neighbor next door after they convinced me to do the Ouija board. The woman wouldn't come over. My friend and the guy, my other friend, did the Ouija board, and I took the notes. Now, my friend is notorious for making up stories and lying about stuff. After all, he is not my friend anymore. So I was prepared to take this all with a grain of salt. Soon things started happening. We got 2 letters, S and A, or maybe the other way around. Not real sure. They were asking questions, and I was getting bored. Try to make this story short. The information we finally got was from a small boy who was 6 years old. He used to live in the place where the apartments are now. This wasn't word for word, but fragments that started to fall into place. my lying friend was truly spooked by now, so I don't think he was doing it on purpose. The guy was pretty much stunned by now. The boy went on to give us clues about a woman who was killed near there in the field. When asked why he was there, he said fun, and he said he liked to whistle, and it was the only place he could whistle. Neither of my friends knew I whistled back at the sound I heard. After that, I told him I had been whistling. Anyway, he said he liked it there. We tried for more info, but that was it. My friends left a bit shaken, so was I. The sounds continued, and I had checked out every possible reason for it. An open window or something like that. Maybe, some little holes underneath the windows, or just underneath the windowsill where some howling wind could be coming in through, but there's none to be found. No reasons we could find. There was just simply no explanation. About a year later, I was having a terrible dream where I was being held down by nothing I could see. In the dream, I looked at the side of my bed to see a woman wearing a black dress and a small white pattern on it, with red hair and freckles and blue eyes. She looked very angry at me, and her eyes went from blue to red. I felt I couldn't breathe, and I was making movements as a person who was underwater trying to reach the surface at that time. I felt and saw my body slowly start to get up, or to go up, rather. I sensed my grandmother was in the other room, but I couldn't get to her. Couldn't. I thought to myself in the dream, this is a dream. Just wake up. It's only a dream. So I sat up at the side of my bed, but still couldn't breathe because I was still asleep. That happened 4 more times, sitting up thinking I was awake when I was still just in a dream. Finally, the very last time I ran out of the room, turned on every light I could, and went to splash my face with cold water. That was when I realized I was actually really awake, and that scared me to death. Needless to say, I didn't go back to bed. I don't know who the woman was supposed to be, and it was some time after the Ouija board incident. I don't know anyone who looks like that, at least not at that time. I do now, so that has puzzled me, and it wasn't her. Well, that's about it. Hope you guys didn't mind that story. Wasn't the best of ones that I've written, but not the worst of ones either. I should rewrite it and make it a lot better, add some more description stuff to it. So anyway, it is 11 o'clock. I'm going to do one final old-time radio show before I turn it in and call it a night. And this one is called, what do I want to do? Yes, we'll do the Small White Boxes at the Black Museum, hosted by Orson Welles.
This is Orson Welles, speaking from London.
This is always good. It's a mystery.
The Black Museum. Here, in the grim stone structure on the Thames, which houses Scotland Yard, is a warehouse of homicide. A warehouse where everyday objects, a woman's necklace, her pair of spectacles, an iron ladle, all are touched.
Murder! Oh my!
These small white boxes, they're familiar objects. They might have contained sleeping pills or a mild sedative or just aspirin.
Oh,
No,
you caught the end
it
of the
contains
story.
Arsenic.
What did you think of it?
Terribly
I have to
tasteless, isn't it, Inspector?
rewrite
yes,
it.
Sir. The murderer coated on that, obviously. Nasty way to die. And the boxes, they look so, well, innocent.
This one is a good good
Today,
mystery
those
story.
white boxes can be seen in a place of special honor in the Black Museum.
The crazy thing is both cats actually looked the exact same. They looked like they could be brothers, like twins.
From the annals of the Criminal
They were
Investigation Department
both
of
gray
the
and
London
white.
Police,
They both
we
had
bring you
similar
the dramatic
faces,
stories of the
only
crimes
Max is a little
recorded by the
longer.
objects in Scotland Yard's Gallery of Death, the Black Museum.
And
In just a moment, you will hear the
both
Black
of them
Museum,
I got
starring Orson
actually
Welles.
came to me. One I found in the road, walking by his lonesome, and just walked up to my car and jumped in. And the other one walked up to my front porch after the first one had died. I was like, okay, you're coming over, you're coming in. And he just decided to stick around. Like, he took me over. Like, he was like, I own you now. Instead of me being the owner, you know, I was his owner and feeding him. By the way, have you ever gotten a flu shot, Moat? Or gotten one yet? Yeah, he sounds like a cat, that's indeed. Oh, you did? Me too, I also got one today. Yay! So hopefully it goes well.
Now,
It helps
the
you to
Black
feel better.
Museum, starring Orson Welles.
Maybe it'll give you that extra kick that you need to kick this thing.
And here we are.
This one's about 30 minutes long, by the way.
Scotland Yard's mausoleum of murder. Perhaps a little courage to wander through this long, ghostly room. All around, arranged so very neatly, is the evidence of man's rages, of woman's cruelty, of the rogue beast who lies waiting just beneath the veneer of civilization, waiting to kill. Yes, here lies death. Here, death seems deliberate, murder.
That's
almost
okay. I can resend you the link so you can finish it at some point.
One is a spectator amid an orgy of violence.
Best you get some rest
Expressed
as
so
needed.
calmly by ordinary objects.
You need
The
it.
filing spike was created for the piercing of papers, you know, to maintain orderliness on a clerk's desk, not for the purpose to which this spike was put. The piercing of the neck, the base of the skull, where the brain conjoins with the spinal column. Yeah, here we are. The white boxes, a little bit yellowed with age. The neat, spidery penmanship on the tiny labels fading now. But still legible. Curry's Pharmacy, Glasgow, Scotland, they say. And the date? January 1857. They were certain they had a case. The prosecutor for the Crown. Procurator Fiscal, they called him. The quiet man in charge of homicide. Inspector Webster. The prosecutor was quite definite about it.
We'll have no trouble at all. It'll be a hanging.
There seems to be plenty of evidence.
You sound doubtful, Inspector.
Juries can be emotional, you know. When that happens, the evidence goes out of the window.
Juries haven't changed much. Almost
By the way,
100 years, have
Do
they?
you know if anybody shares
rather,
any
in the old
prayers
tradition,
on Twitch or
Let the
streams that
guilty
you
go
kind of
free
pray
occasionally, then
type
have
things?
one innocent perish.
If you don't mind me asking, though.
They presented their case in proper order, each fact, large or small, in sequence.
sure if you
was
would be into
paraded
that
before
sort of
the
thing or
12
not.
good Scotsmen who sat in the jury box there in Glasgow almost 100 years ago. First there was the landlady, Emile Dangeret's landlady. She told of that
That
summer
would be
evening.
cool.
in
I was thinking of doing like
1856.
one Friday night where allowing people to share
Well,
all of
Mr.
their prayers,
Donzel,
like
you're
to whatever they pray to, and I would read them as well as sharing some prayers that I know
Striking.
from all the different
You ought to
saints
catch the lady's
and
eye.
at least from Catholic religion,
madame.
How did
and
you
even maybe sharing a few Native American prayers too.
Mr. Donzel.
That is something I have learned from the
I don't know if that would be illegal on Twitch or if I'd end up getting a lot of haters.
I must catch the
But
steamer to Rawalin.
hopefully we'd get a lot more help.
By moonlight.
A happy little man that summer's evening.
Yeah, you're right. I better check the terms of service just to be on the safe
His
side.
well-pressed jacket, his smart hat. On the way to the quay to board the side-wheel steamer, he met his friend Robert Dougal. Mr. Dougal was
Better
a
be
witness
safe
too.
than sorry.
His story was just as simple.
Don't want to be like,
How are you?
finally got
As if I needed to
almost
ask.
enough followers and be like,
You're
you're terminated for breaking our terms,
Don't
man.
tell me if you don't want to, but I'll wager you have a rendezvous. I do. And
That would not be good.
You introduced us with Madeline? Madeline Smith? No other, my friend. But the Smiths are Rowan. Then you met the family? Not yet, Robert. But very soon. Tonight, just Madeleine. How long after tonight shall I have to wait for the family to...
By the way, if you know of anyone who needs help overcoming fear,
How long, little
I'm
man?
going to be doing
How long indeed?
a thing on overcoming
This is a
fear
big part of the
tomorrow night.
problem.
Hopefully
Robert
between
Dougal
9
was
and 11 if I
temporarily
can
excused
get
from the witness
home by
box.
9
The
o'clock,
next witness was
depending on
a letter.
storms.
a letter which tried to recapture on paper
Feel free to
the
let them
wonder
know
of
to
a
join
summer
in.
night.
It'll definitely
Young
be after 9 and before 11.
Oh, Emil. Oh, my darling.
Madeleine, my love.
And it's going to be like overcoming all kinds of different fears. From the fear of death, fear of life, fear of people, fear of heights.
Emil, you're sweet.
My darling, is this not a night for lovers?
Come, darling. There is a quiet...
Ah, you're helping Chum with the stream
where the
tomorrow night.
moon
Oh,
will be
cool.
reflected in the water.
Well,
No one will be near.
will you be on streaming as well, or
Don't
just
you
on
think that,
Chum's
darling?
stream?
We don't want my father
If you are,
finding us
then
now.
I will raid you guys. Either you or him, depending on who's on.
A garden gate shut softly, and footsteps, a man and a woman, fade away into the sounds of the
You'll
night.
be just on his? Okay, cool. So after I
It would
finish
be nice if we could
my
leave the story here.
going through everything, I will definitely
But
raid
we
you guys.
can't.
You know
Nor
what
could the
time he'll be
prosecutor.
going from.
There were more letters, many, many more, written by both young people. Letters which detailed the progress of the summer and of a love affair.
Madeleine, your return will coincide
10 to
with
12,
the
okay,
opening of a
perfect. So you'll be like,
social season.
I'll be
You will
just
go
about
to
ending.
all the dances,
And
all the parties, but without me
I
at
should
your
at least
side. I
have
cannot
about
stand to picture
5 to
this
10
even
new
myself.
people.
Madeleine,
Um,
let me be your
some people from
husband.
the Philippines are going to be joining in. And
Oh,
I know
thank you, Nick.
quite a few
Have I
people from
not
my workplace are
told
going to
them
be
my love?
joining in for the first time.
Oh,
So,
Emil,
along with
the
Lady
tears
Crystalline.
which
So
bathe this
I will,
paper, they are tears of longing.
I should hopefully be able to
Longing to
host
be
about
with
12 or
you.
13 people and have them
There was more, much more. It all seemed
Be over
endless, eternal,
as part of
the
the
love
raid,
these two pledged
hopefully.
each other. But August moved into September, and September into the fall. Present, as the prosecutor didn't fail to point out, the social round swept over Glasgow and over the Smith family, of course. Madeline was caught in a whirl with her family. Here, Robert Dougal was recalled to the witness box. This part of his evidence, if evidence it was, held a touch of wistfulness, of pathos even.
Do you think this is the proper place to stand, Robert?
Not proper, but correct for our purpose. They'll have to pass this way.
There's quite a crowd, is there not?
The public dances of the Glasgow season are always crowded. They say more matches are made at these affairs.
Do not say that, my friend. This is my great fear, that she will meet someone.
But she loves you.
What am I? A 10-shilling backing clerk. I am nothing. Our family do not even know I exist. Where are they? Has something happened? I must...
He stood there on the stairway leading to the ballroom,
After
waiting
this
so
one finishes,
impatient.
I'm going to share
The little man
a
in a fancy waistcoat, beneath which was so
poem
much
that my
pride,
friend wrote
so much love.
about his
And then at long last,
NMS before he
saw
passed
her
away.
light on her father's arm from the
And one
mechanic
that
start up the
I
stairway.
had helped to fire.
She's a princess. Is she not, Robert?
She's a very pretty girl. But then, I'm not in love with her.
I will speak to her.
No, you mustn't. Not here.
Madeleine. Miss Smith.
No, it would be unforgivable. Don't embarrass her like this.
She passed within arm's length and seemed not to notice him, standing there waiting so eagerly for the acknowledgement which never came. Shortly afterwards, the two young men went into the ballroom themselves. Emile saw his Madeleine whirling in the waltz, heard her laughter.
Why, Mr. Miller, I cannot allow you to speak to me like that. My father would listen.
Robert, this is what I have nightmares over. Patience, Emile, patience. That is what she says. Patience, Emile, patience. She's going into the conservatory. Quick, Emile. Do I dare? What, didn't you see? She looked at you, pointed with her fan. Wait for me, Robert. With pleasure, my friend.
Emile, here, behind the arbor.
Madeleine, oh, my dear.
You shouldn't have come. Yet I'm glad you're here.
If I could have only but one dance with you.
Impossible, darling. My father noticed you on the steps. I told him it was Robert who spoke my name.
Right
I don't think he believes me.
Let him know me. I am not ashamed of what I do. I will not be a clerk forever.
Not now, not tonight. I must be quick. They will be missing me. Darling, tomorrow night, come to the house. You know my window on the ground floor with the railing. We will talk about it then. Tomorrow, after the family is asleep.
The ground floor window, where the cat bars to keep out cats. Or was it young lovers? A strong, if decorative grill. But there was an area entrance. According to the letters offered clearly in evidence, Emile was admitted via the area entrance to the gracious old house in Glasgow.
Madeleine. Oh, Madeleine.
Quickly, darling. In here, my sitting room. Here we are. We must be very quiet. My elder sister is just above, and my father sleeps very lightly.
Madeleine, when? When?
I must await the proper moment.
And in the meantime, must I come to the area entrance in the dark of night, sneaking like a thief? I did not steal your love. You gave it, darling. You gave it.
What I gave, I can take back.
No, you cannot.
Oh, of course not, dear. And we must not quarrel either. Our summer was too lovely for us to spoil it now. I have made some tea, my dear. It must be cold outside. Shall we have tea together and pretend we are the happy married couple we want to be?
Of course, darling. Of course, whatever you say. Only let us be
It was a domestic scene. How the letters reveled in it. Charming, delightful. Two young people pretending marriage and stayed middle-aged. And then, in due course and in proper chronological order, the prosecutor introduced Mr. Curry, owner and chief dispenser at Curry's Glasgow Pharmacy.
Yes, the defendant. It was the defendant there in the prisoner's box who bought the arsenic from me. I was told it was for the destruction of weeds and rats.
The destruction of weeds and rats. Well, be that as it may, today those little white boxes can be found in the Black Museum.
In just a moment, we will continue with The Black Museum, starring Orson Welles.
Okay, Mo, you have a good rest of the evening. Sleep well. Thank you for stopping by. Much appreciated. And I'll see you tomorrow evening for a little while. Nighty night. Take care. May your dreams be sweet and pleasant. And without trouble. Horrible at smiling.
And now we continue with The Black Museum, starring Orson Welles.
White is the bride's color, they say. In China, white is the color of mourning. Perhaps white was the right color for the little boxes in the Black Museum. The evidence continued. There was the stolid, honest police constable. He had a simple, sad little tale to tell. It began with a sound such as children make when they play with sticks on an iron rail. But this was not a child. This was a lover calling to his love. While the onlookers were a policeman
And death. Uh-oh.
Emily, for heaven's sake, you wake the family.
I had to see you, darling. I had to.
I told you, Emil, I could not see you tonight.
What? Was he here again?
Was who here again?
You know whom I mean. That Minoc.
Since you mentioned
Uh-oh.
it, yes, he was.
So you could not see me.
We must be
Very
discreet,
discreet.
darling. It's perfect camouflage. Father likes Mr. Minock. As long as Father thinks I pay attention to Mr. Minock, he will not suspect that I am in love with anyone else.
Are you in love with me, Madeleine?
Emil, how can you
Uh-oh.
ask that?
Sounds like trouble coming.
Forgive me, my darling. At the time, I do not know what I am doing or saying. Here it is November. The summer seems so far away.
Yes, the summer. Emil, go home. I cannot let you in tonight.
Madeleine, to stand here, talking through bars.
Oh, you'll catch your death of cold. Glasgow in November. Damp, almost bitter. Oh, please go home, Emil, where you'll be warm and safe. I'm chilly standing here.
No, not until I have held you in my arms once more.
Emil, stop it. It's so late, so cold.
Yes, cold. And almost bitter.
Good
Night,
night,
Emil.
Madeleine! Madeleine! You can't!
He
You
has.
Madeleine! I'll find a way. We will go off to South America. We will get away. Madeleine, listen to me.
Here, now, what's all this?
It's nothing, Constable.
This is near the time to be rattling windy grates. It's much too cold for serenading, you know.
You do not understand.
Oh, don't I? I was young myself, not so long ago. Now, on your way, young fella. Mr. Smith is a good friend of mine. I'll no have lovesick boys disturbing his daughters this time of night. Off with you now. Get on to your house. Understand, little man? I'm telling you to move along.
Yes, Constable. I understand.
But did he understand? Did Emile Dangelet understand that this was the beginning of the end? That the summer was over and forever? Perhaps. Perhaps not. Perhaps he wouldn't let himself understand. However, this is all conjecture. The prosecutor was concerned with facts in their proper order. And so his next piece of evidence was a letter.
In view of what appears to be the termination of our affair of the heart, will you be gentleman enough to return my letters to me at once, together with my portrait? I flatter myself you have not destroyed either my picture or the missives I sent you while we felt more tenderly towards each other.
There was no answer. Madeline tried another approach.
Once we meant something to each other. I trust those moments are not unhappy memories. If they are happy at all, will you honor their memory by returning my letters and the miniature I gave you?
Still, no
Why
answer.
no answer?
Emile brooded in his room, on his job. And then suddenly there was a change. The prosecutor brought this to the attention of the jury by recalling Emile's landlady to the witness box. She told an interesting story.
Well, Mr. Dangelier, you haven't stopped at my pier glass in a long time.
I have had no reason to until tonight.
Oh, a lady?
Yes, a lady.
With a warm heart and your smile.
With a warmer heart than she has shown in some time.
I see. You're a faithful person, aren't you?
I have always hoped I could be.
You're not looking very well. I expect to see you improve in health, Mr. Dangelier, as you improve the problems of your heart.
Thank you, madame. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. If you will excuse me, I must not be late tonight.
I must not be late tonight.
Late for what?
Yes, tonight of all nights. He must not be late.
Late for the gallows?
Jauntily, the little packing clerk left the house where he lived in his furnished room. There was no record, no witness, the prosecutor admitted, of what went on that night between the jaunty Emile and the beautiful Madeline. But the landlady had more to say. And what she had to add was a tale which was neither jaunty nor beautiful.
Mr. Dongelier, are you ill? What's wrong? Do you want a doctor? Can I help you? Mr. Dongelier. Mr. Dongelier. Mr. Dongelier, what is it? You look as if you'd crawled home on your hands and knees.
Yes, I did. The last block. The pain.
What sort of pain is he in?
I cannot stand the pain. I shall call a doctor. You're sick. You're very sick. You must have a doctor.
The good woman hurried up the street, aroused the doctor, whose surgery was in the corner, and together they hurried back and up the stairs to the little man's shabby room.
What is it, man? Where's your pain?
Leave me alone. I want to die.
Good heavens. Mr. Dongelier.
You will die unless you help me yourself. Madam, have you any mustard in the house?
Mustard? Whatever for?
An emetic. This man has been poisoned. Quickly now.
Oh, yes, of course. I
caused
must
the
have
poison?
some somewhere.
They did their best, the doctor and the landlady, but their best was to no avail.
He's gone. A bad end. My guess is arsenic. It'll take an autopsy to find out for certain. However, now it's the turn of the police.
The police, in the person of Inspector Webster, gave testimony at the trial.
Inspector, tell the jury what the medical stated. Death caused by a large quantity of arsenic taken by mouth, probably in tea.
And what did you find in a small wooden chest in the victim's room, Inspector?
A packet of letters in perfect chronological order from the prisoner to the deceased.
Inspector.
Thank you, Inspector. One thing more. Did you arrest the prisoner?
I did.
Did you warn her that anything she might say could be used in evidence against her?
I did.
And what did she say?
Too bad. He was a nice little man. If he hadn't been so persistent, I might have liked him better.
Thank you again, Inspector.
There was more, a little more. Mr. Curry, the pharmacist, was called back to the witness box.
How many times did the defendant come to your shop, sir?
3 times. Each time she bought 6 pennyworth of arsenic.
And what reasons did she give for these purchases?
First, it was killing weeds in the back garden. Then it was rats at the Smith's country place. And finally, rats at their city house.
Did anyone else connected with the defendant ever stop in your shop?
A servant. One of the men servants from the Smith's house. He asked for prussic acid to whiten the defendant's hands, he said. I told him nice young ladies shouldn't have poison like that around. I refused to sell it to him. She came for the arsenic herself about 2 weeks later.
The defense made 2 points. The sweetness and the excellent background of the prisoner. The fact that no one found any evidence that the poison had been administered by the prisoner. No one saw her do it was the fact. The judge made the usual charge.